My name is Karen Davidson. I am the Data Controller and Research Analyst for the Office of Teaching and Learning, and I am joining you this afternoon to talk about course setup in Infinite Campus. So it is super important for all kinds of reasons that course setup be accurate in Infinite Campus. Course data touches a lot of other systems, including our LEAD system that checks for proper teacher certification for those teachers assigned to courses. It affects our scholarships for our students through KIA. It affects federal reporting through the Civil Rights Data Collection. We do share all of our course data with the Kentucky Longitudinal Data System. And of course, course information populates several different portions of the school report card. The school profile report, which is the courses offered section, and that also shows up on the school report card under general education coursework. Course information populates the advanced courses and exams section of the school report card and contributes to the post-secondary readiness indicator. I want to draw your attention to two data standards. If you get a copy of this presentation afterwards, here's the links are included in here for you. We have the course data standard, and then we have the dual credit course data standard, which goes into further detail specifically for dual credit courses. I am going to go over much of the information found on these data standards today. However, those will be your best quick reference guides in the future for all course setup information. In general, I always tell people the overarching guiding principle when you're setting up a course in Infinite Campus is that whatever's happening in reality for your students, whether they're sitting in a classroom with a teacher doing direct instruction or whether they're on a virtual course with a digital learning provider online, whatever's happening in reality for those students, that should mirror the course setup in Infinite Campus. So when you are referencing the data standard and all of the data elements I'm about to go over with you, you will always select the one that matches what's happening with the course. So we'll start with our state code or the state course code. We always advise that you would choose the code with the description that most closely matches the content of the course. It may not be a 100% match, but we hope it should be, a 90 to 95% match, that whatever course is being offered in your school, the description should align to the description of the state course code that you select. We do have the searchable state course codes database within KEX available for reviewing all of our state course codes and the description for those courses. There's also a type data element on our courses. Most courses will have a blank type. However, if students are taking an online virtual course, they should be set up with a V for online virtual. You would not check the attendance box for these courses. These are students are going to receive performance-based credit for these courses, and schools will receive their funding upon successful completion of the course by the student. Then we also have the attendance-based virtual or ABV. This is for our full-time virtual schools, academies, programs connected to our 704 KAR 3535, which includes A8 schools. The attendance box must be checked for these courses, and then we have our more traditional performance-based courses would receive a type of P, and similar to the V online virtual, students would receive credit upon successful completion, and schools would receive funding upon successful completion. This is the only one, however, where the attendance box may or may not be checked, so it's you have a little bit of flexibility and options there. And if you were joining this morning, Josh Whitlow gave a wonderful presentation all about virtual and performance-based course setup. We have a difficulty level. This is critical for our students that are taking advanced coursework and are expecting to receive scholarships. If the course is offered by the College Board, an advanced placement course, they should receive a difficulty of AP for advanced placement. Dual credit courses would be set up with DC, International Baccalaureate courses with IB, and Cambridge Advanced International courses with CAI. If this is missing from your course setup, that course will not get pulled into the files for KIA and students will not receive their scholarship. So please pay careful attention to this one. We have our teaching method. There are definitions for each of these that can be found on the data standard. And remember that guiding principle I talked about earlier, proper course setup in Infinite Campus should match what is actually happening in the course as closely as possible. So these are your options. It looks like actually one is missing. We have 21. Work-based learning is a new teaching method that we added last year. Last year it was optional because we added it mid-year. This year it is required for those students that are participating in off-site, off-campus, work-based learning experiences. We have our instructional settings, and these are your options. It kind of defaults to that O1 on-site classroom, but perhaps your students are taking something online or in a blended learning situation where they're sometimes meeting in person and sometimes meeting virtually. Blended learning would be appropriate there. Again, for some reason, we have missing the 21 newly added last year. We have an off-site workplace instructional setting. Again, that was added mid-year last year and it was optional for school use. This year, it is required for any students that are off-site. We added those to align to our guiding principle that proper course setup in Infinite Campus should match what is actually happening in the course as closely as possible. We realized we didn't have a good teaching method and instructional setting for those courses, so we added them and appreciate the feedback we received from schools and districts to help us make that change. There is an attendance checkbox. We talked about this a little bit already as it relates to the different types that a course could be set up as. Just to review, the attendance checkbox is required to be taken. I'm sorry, you will select the attendance checkbox if attendance is required to be taken for the course for ADA funding purposes. And it cannot be checked if the course is using type V online virtual and must be checked if the type is ABV attendance-based online virtual. I have some additional contact information here for you. If you have specific questions about funding for these courses, please reach out to Josh Whitlow. And the contact for online virtual and A8 schools is Ben Maynard. They'll be able to assist with specific questions about those areas. So at this point, we're going to dig a little bit deeper into dual credit course setup. There's some extra requirements going on here and things that are highly specified so that students can receive proper credit at the post-secondary level as well. So the number one question that I'd say we get in the course codes email box is what course code to use for dual credit courses. This can be a little tricky, but again, following our guiding principle, it should match as closely in reality. What's happening in reality should match in Infinite Campus. So we have on the academic side, we have what we call the 8,000 course codes for dual credit. These were set up to assist with calculations for accountability, and they mirror what I call the general education coursework buckets at the post-secondary institution level. So if you look at the course catalog for the post-secondary institution at the course that the student's taking, it should note what general education coursework, what bucket that falls under. If it doesn't fall under one of the general education requirements, it's probably not a general education dual credit course code. We do give the advice that if it doesn't align to one of those buckets, you can choose one of our other state course codes to utilize. And if there really is nothing that matches, which does happen quite frequently since college coursework goes above and beyond what's expected to be taught at the high school level, we recommend using state course code 909999, which is school defined course. Please note, however, that usage of that state course code does require local board approval. On the CTE side of things, if your students are taking a CTE dual credit course code, you would simply choose the CTE state course code that most closely aligns with the description of the post-secondary institution course. We recommend using like a keyword search. If you're looking for a medical course, you could type medical into the searchable state course codes database, review the descriptions of all the courses that come up, and choose the one which description best aligns. For dual credit naming, and then the course name is highly specified. This is the part where it is critical that you follow these exact guidelines. And we do have checks set up in our courses to help with this as well. But the first 4 characters must be the abbreviation for the course. The 5th character must be a space. Characters 6 through 9 should include the course number, and then you will include the school abbreviation. And again, this is so that your students can receive credit at the post-secondary level as well. So I give a few examples here to point out. For Biology 113 at WKU, BIOL takes up the entire first 4 spaces. The 5th space, or the 5th character, excuse me, is a space, and then we have our 113. In the case of Art 110 at EKU, art is only 3 letters, so we need to put 2 spaces. So the 4th and 5th characters are now a space so that our 110 can still appear in the characters 6 through 9 slot. On your dual credit courses, you'll also need to select the DCS school. That's for the dual credit scholarship. There's a drop-down pick list there, so you can pick the school if a student happens to be taking a dual credit course at a non-participating school. You can use the all zeros selection. There's also a checkbox for that should be DCS lab indicator. This is for when, so if like a biology course, for example, if there's an associated lab with the course that receives a separate grade, you would set that up as 2 courses in Infinite Campus. However, the lab does not count as a separate course towards the 2 course limit for the dual credit scholarship program. So checking this indicator will kind of take that out of the running there and allow for another course to be slotted in. And I also want to note that the dual credit data standard includes a section about creating a dual credit course where some students are taking the course for dual credit and some are not. This comes up every now and again, and we do have some guidance in the data standard. If you need that, please reference that and feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions about that method. And please note that if this method is used, the difficulty level on a student's transcript will need to be manually adjusted to reflect the dual credit nature. I think I'm seeing a few questions in the box, but I think I'm going to come back at the end if you don't mind. I'm going to go over right now a few helpful reports that we have available in campus. We have the QA courses report. This one has several options that you can run. You can run a report for all courses or just courses with setup concerns. You can also run the report just for dual credit courses or just for AP, IB, and CAI courses. We are continuously improving the QA courses report, and we have a few new changes that will be going into production soon to help check for those work-based learning and offsite workplace teaching method and instructional setting I spoke with you about earlier. I do want to note, it recently kind of clicked in my mind that there are a few different checks in the dual credit option and the AP, IB, and CAI course option than there are in the just courses with setup concerns. So we do recommend that you run all 3 versions of the report and make sure that you're clearing errors there. If you have any questions at all about an error, please feel free to reach out to myself or through the course codes at education.ky.gov email address. We tried to make the report as straightforward as possible, but we totally understand that sometimes things don't make sense. Personally, I think one of the more confusing things is that sometimes we can just flag something as like a check to say, hey, is this right? Because we can't say for certain one way or the other. And it kind of takes you just looking at it and saying, yes, this is really right, or nope, that's not right. I need to fix something. So there are some where it's clearly an error and you must fix it, and there's some where it takes a little interpretation. So again, if you ever need assistance, please do not hesitate to reach out. We also love working with districts to help understand your errors because it helps us improve our report and what might not be clear or what may be missing. We do have a dual credit scholarship report. There are 3 kind of sub-reports under this one. So I'll briefly go over each of those. There is an error report, and this should be run to identify missing data elements that need to be fixed before a submission file is generated. KIA will reject students with missing data elements, so this step is extremely important. The goal is to have a totally blank report. If you have a blank report, that means you have no errors. Congratulations, you can move on to the next step. The next step is the validation report. This is a sample report of what the submission file will look like. You'll use this report to check to ensure that all the students are there that you are expecting to see. If you have students missing, there's likely a course setup error that you'll need to go back and address. Once you feel that your validation report, that the way the submission file is going to go to KIA, everything looks correct, then you will go ahead and run your submission file. Do not, I repeat, do not open this file, as it will mess up the formatting of the file and the submission to KIA will not work. This is why there's a validation report that can be used to check your file first before submitting. Once your validation report is as expected, you can trust that the submission file is going to come out in the exact same way. We also have the advanced courses and exams report. This report will assist you in checking data on the school report card, the advanced courses and exam section. If your school report card person is going into the preview portal to review data and something doesn't quite look right, we recommend coming back and running this report. There's a detailed version so that you can see each of the students that are listed in the report and how the aggregate's being made, and that will help you identify why something's missing. Sometimes we get the wrong state course code, we get missing difficulty levels that are causing the course not to pull in. Sometimes with the exams portion, if your student's name, if they took an AP exam, for example, using a nickname, or maybe they added a middle initial, but in Infinite Campus, they don't have a middle initial listed. So it can be difficult to match the scores with the student in Infinite Campus. So if your students are missing exam scores, that's something that's going to show up on this exam report as well. We also have these school profile courses. So very similar to our last report, this will assist you in checking the courses offered section of the school profile courses, which also appears under general education coursework. It's for the program areas of health education and physical education, career and technical education, it's called career studies on the card, visual and performing arts, and world languages. So again, if you are logging into that school report card portal and feel like something is off in your numbers, you'll go back and run this report to kind of understand how those numbers were being generated, and that will help you identify errors that may need to be fixed. I have a list of helpful resources for you here. We do revise our course codes FAQ annually to make sure that all that information is up to date. especially if you are new to the KSIS role and are not familiar with that document. If you're working with course setup, I strongly recommend that you review that. It's rather long, but that means it's got a lot of really good information for you in there. Let's see, we've got a guidance document for setting up online virtual and attendance-based virtual courses. We had a version of this published last year, but we've done some work to revise and help alleviate confusion that we've noticed is creeped up around those kinds of courses. We have a guiding principles document for using that 909999 school defined course that I spoke about earlier. That local board approval is required before using that state course code. And then we have some revised versions of our guiding principles for using our placeholder courses, both the dual credit and digital learning placeholder. Again, we revised those to try and make the guidance more clear around how those placeholder courses should be utilized and how you can take attendance on those and set up the actual coursework during the virtual performance-based section of the instructional day. So again, I'm Karen Davidson. Here's my email address. I can answer general course code questions and questions about academic course codes. And my counterpart in the Office of Career and Technical Education is Amy Tracy. Got her email address here as well if you have any specific questions about CTE courses. And now I will look, I see a couple, and please feel free to add if you have any additional questions. I see one question that says, if a district uses course masters, is a course master required to be created for each dual credit course? I'm going to be honest, I'm not an expert in course masters, but I believe if they're different specific dual credit courses, then the answer is yes. There would be a course master for each specific instance of a different dual credit course. There are tons and tons and tons of options for dual credit courses, and you might have multiple sections of a psychology course, but anytime a student is taking a different kind of dual credit course, it would require a new course master. And then I have a question. What if the course is part of one of the KCTCS courses? Should it be abbreviated for the specific campus? If so, just use the first letters. And I'm not sure if you're able to update or give me some feedback about the question. I think this came in when I was speaking about dual credit. So if it's one of the KCTS dual credit courses, they should have the course master for those courses set up correctly. Again, I'm not an expert on the KCTCS questions. Amy Tracy is actually much, much better at all of that. So I'm going to tentatively say that that should all be taken care of for you, but I will check with her, and we'll get a text answer into that question to make sure that that is accurate. And I do see a comment from Frank when putting it into Infinite Campus Southeast. Is this just for a general course though, Frank? Or specifically for a dual credit course?
I think it would be a dual credit course, Karen.
Okay.
So like, would they put KCTCS in there under 3 digits, or would they put Bluegrass,
it should be the post-secondary institution, because even if the course is being taught at one of like an ATC, there's still an agreement with the post-secondary institution, and their abbreviation is the one that should be on the course.
So you'd want the individual college, not KCTCS, which is the overarching umbrella organization for all the community college systems and schools.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Thank you.
All right. I was thinking that might be helpful. I don't know.
No, that's very helpful. Like I said, that's not my area of expertise specifically, so I appreciate the assistance.
You do have another question that just came in?
Yes. What is the anticipated date that AP class scores will be uploaded? All percentages are showing 0% as of today. That is correct. We do have those in. We just got those in this week or last week. I can't remember which day they actually came in at this point. And we are in the process of getting those loaded into Infinite Campus. So you should be seeing those soon. I would say within the next couple of weeks, those should be entered. And then we're hoping that we can get them in soon enough to get them into the school report card preview when that opens by August 11th. We're going to do our very best, but there's many steps that have to happen between now and then. So we will get them loaded just as fast as we possibly can in all places.